Dan Bernstein Unfiltered. Unfiltered on 312 Sports.
DBU on 312. We are brought to you in partnership with Chicago Window Guys. Call 847-302-9171. Check out Russ Armstrong's 5-star reviews at ChicagoWindowGuys.com and by the Chicago Stars, making this a soccer-filled summer in Evanston. Come to a match for family-friendly pro sports on the lakefront. Get tickets at chicagostars.com/tickets. Cody Del Mendo is in for Maddie. He is off today. He has baseball responsibilities, driving around, I believe, from tournament to tournament and tracking all of his players and following Game Changer and doing all of that. Been there, done that. The Chicago Cubs have a chance to at least show their division tormentor. I didn't say rival. Notice I haven't. They're not really a rival right now. I think the Milwaukee Brewers have risen to the level of divisional tormentor, and the Cubs are going to go there in the condition that they're in. And we finished up off the Ivy, sort of talking about where they are and who's doing what and what the matchups are. But overall, the sense of divergent vibes and outcomes is what's notable to me, as they are heading up into their house of horrors to face the most intimidating pitcher in baseball. That you have 4 consecutive wins, 10 of 13. They're one bullpen meltdown away from like a 7-game win streak, I think we figured out. And it just feels awful because every day another pitcher goes down. I want to say, too, I don't necessarily have evidence to back this up. This is more just a hunch. I'm not reporting it. If I were a betting person, I would bet that we've seen the last of Ben Brown this year. I'm not reporting it. I don't know it, but they dealt with this thing. Was it 2 years ago or last year? It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, May of 2024.
When Ben Brown developed a stiff neck, and they eventually learned he had a benign bone growth on his neck called an osteoma, which is what it sounds. It's oma is a growth and oste is bone. So it's just a fancy way of saying bone growth. And they allowed it to calm down. I don't know if they treated it just with anti-inflammatories and pain medication, or they built up the area around it. Whatever they did not do surgery. So it's been there. It's whatever the issues were has been at bay, but now it's back. And I wonder if I don't know what his doctors told him the last time. Was like, hey, we're able to do this without surgery this time. We'll go as long as we can go. Sometimes with these things, what the doctors will tell you, and in this case, it's probably any number of specialists. That is not just, you probably have a neurologist because it's on the neck. I don't know exactly where it is, but it may just be, they said, next time we're going to have to do something else. And maybe he's confronting that right now. Maybe the choice that you give the patient is, what it took last time to recover from this, or we can probably just pop this thing off of there and then have you recovered and it's never going to be an issue again. So maybe there's a decision to make. I don't know. They're not saying anything. I'm just guessing. I'm just going to try to kind of play it out. But the bottom line is I don't think that Ben Brown is going to be a part of things until we hear from them that they think he is.
Yeah. I believe Craig Counsell said yesterday that he's just going to rest for a month and then they're going to go from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And when you talk about the rest of the season for the Cubs, at least for him, it's like, okay, it's June 26th.
Right. So a month is the end of July.
And then you still have to ramp him back up, which, at least a couple weeks, at least, right?
If the rest is the difference.
Right. Yeah.
Because if I remember last time, they did try rest, and then it was during the ramp up that he felt it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is abnormal. This isn't just a flexor strain or a shoulder issue that pitching infrastructure folks have dealt with a million times. This is new, unique, and in different, unprecedented for most pitchers to have a bone growth there.
Mm.
So I don't know, but rest a month and then wait. Bad sign.
Yeah, I would say that, you kind of led the show with, this is, big series this week against Milwaukee.
Yep.
Whatever happens with the Cubs as far as wins and losses over the next month will dictate how they're going to operate at the deadline, I think. And I think the Cubs will be going into that process believing that it will be without Ben Brown. And they have to look at it that way. And they have to do the same thing with Justin Steele, which, Jed Hoyer has already openly said that he thinks that he probably won't start when he comes back. And so when you talk about roster construction from at the deadline and how they go about things, depending on where they're at, I think that they'll be viewing it with not having Ben Brown the rest of the year and a limited Justin Steele and whoever else is hurt. So yeah, it's a really tough situation for Jed Hoyer, but from a human standpoint with Ben Brown, it's just really sad. I mean, the guy finally emerged to the type of pitcher I thought he could be.
Oh, he's going to be an all-star.
Yeah. He was carrying the staff.
Yeah, he was going to be an all-star
during the worst stretch of the year. And
I'm just always, the moment a pitcher does anything, the moment he shrugs, the moment he takes his hat off, the moment he walks off the back of the mound. This year, I'm always thinking the worst. Hell, I was thinking it last night in the first inning. PCA took time at second base, and it looked like there was something. He's like, "Wait, I need a second," and I thought, "Oh no!" Like broken finger. I thought, jammed his shoulder, something. And then I was on tenterhooks just watching that because of the way things have gone. But either way, I don't want to paint this as the Cubs' last stand. So don't put that on the thumbnail, numbnuts.
Okay.
Don't know, because I know you. Because you got it's not a criticism because it's the job. Is that the thumbnails have to be attention grabbing and catchy, and I know that you and Maddie have gotten very, very good at that. So I'm not faulting you for doing your job, but I am not calling this the Cubs' last stand. But this is an opportunity for them to say, what do we got? Let's list our assets, and we got to storm the castle. This is when you've got that scene in Princess Bride when Wesley has just been resurrected by Miracle Max because he was only mostly dead. They gave him the chocolate-covered pill, and it just took effect that Fezzik has to carry him to the bridge just outside the castle. He can't even move. And he all he does, he said, list our assets, because they have to figure out what they have left before they take on this daunting opponent. So if the Brewers end up being Prince Humperdinck and his army in this case, this is where they are. This is the ragtag band of the Cubs pitching staff. Here comes Colin Ray. And whatever that bar is in Iowa that gives out free drinks every time he pitches. I hope they don't give out free drinks or they make you leave if he gives up home runs, because that would it'd probably be bad for them. That's the Jameson Tyone bar.
Yeah.
Wherever that is. So this is what do you got, Cubs? Is essentially what do you got?
Yeah, I would say, if you've listened to Off the Ivy, I've talked about, being somewhere between 6 to 10 games above 500 heading into the All-Star break. You got 15 games going into today or tonight. You'll have 15 games left before the All-Star break. You're 7 games above 500. I don't think this is a pride series for the Cubs. You got swept at home by this Brewers team in embarrassing fashion. PCA with the 2 errors that went viral all over the internet. All of that stuff. Misiorowski had a good start against you. Everything that could go wrong in that series went wrong. In this series coming up on the road now, I don't want to say it's like, how do you respond? It's more of like, can we show some pride here? Can we put together better at bats? Can we put together a better performance? At least look like we deserve to hang with this team. And that's what I'm looking for personally, going into this series. And it's going to be it's a tall task considering the staff they have to face and all the injuries that you have. But 15 games before the All-Star break here. Where can you be going into it? Right now, you're in a spot that I feel good about, as we talked about on Off the Ivy. But
but now here's 105 miles an hour up your ass over and over again. So you can feel really, really, really good until you step into the box against that. Right. And you kind of look back at the dugout like, I don't know. I can't see it. So if Seiya Suzuki can lay off the high cheese, if Ian Happ can lay off the tunneling or the mixture of the breaking ball and the fastball above his hands, you're hoping to click on a couple of those things. Maybe you get a walk and somebody on base when it happens, but you got a chance. Maybe you run up his pitch count. Maybe he's not feeling well. Maybe it's not his night. You get into their bullpen in the first game of a series. Good things are allowed to happen to the Cubs. They're allowed.
It's hard to believe that, but you are correct.
That's all I'm reminding you. It's just reminding you that these things are allowed to happen, and the offense has been good. I don't want to forget this. That I want to do this before I forget. That tonight is Find Cody and Win night. So after 6, Cody is going to go to a Wrigleyville bar. I'm not telling you which Wrigleyville bar, because he's going to go watch the Cubs take on the Brewers. And really, you should be finding him just because you want to hang out and watch the game. But the first person to find him, if you are a Cubs fan, and if you have a registered account on the 312 Sports app, and you can answer a Chicago Cubs trivia question, you'll win a pair of tickets to a future Cubs home game and exclusive 312 Sports swag. Cody's already dropped hints on the app and on socials at 312 Sports. So I think you should, if you're not a complete idiot, you should have a pretty good idea. And if you are a complete idiot, again, you're allowed to accidentally, you walk into a wall, you walk into a door, you're in the wrong neighborhood, but you might just happenstance run into Cody Del Mendo. So that's possible too, but you can find Cody, beat the crowd, and win Cubs tickets. That's the kind of thing we do for you here.
Yeah. I've been given the hints on Off the Ivy. I might as well drop them here too. The bar has a rooftop. I was at this bar for game 1 of the 2016 NLCS. And the newest hint today was that it's across the street from Wrigley Field. So,
okay. Yeah. All right. Come on. No excuses now.
No excuses now. We have made it to Friday. So, I mean, if you've been following and listening and all of that, like, it's going to be really hard to not find me. Like, I want to make it hard, but I also do want people to show up. So.
Yeah, so you can all watch the game together. I found this interesting that Fangraphs puts odds on, or percentage possibilities, largely based on the pitching matchup between the two teams. And when you look at the math of a puncher's chance on the downside of a matchup, it looks like this, with Milwaukee has a 68% chance of winning the game, and the Cubs have a 32% chance of winning the game. Feels about right.
Yep.
But that's okay.
The odds very much love the Brewers tonight.
I would think so, but there's always opportunity in some of those predictions for you. So you want to play the Cubs and their 32% chance of victory, feel free to do so. I know what we love to do on Fridays is your feedback. Feedback Friday. When you have sent in emails, you have sent in other thoughts and things. So I want to get started. I like to do this in order of the topics that we've discussed as best I can. And sometimes there's some things that have nothing to do with anything, with no topics here. So, and this is the first one. This is actually a little newsy item that I wanted to get to. And I saw this picture that was sent in by Erica. And there's a picture of a sports team and of large, thick men with their socks pulled up, and they're wearing cleats, and they're in front of a banner that says 2026 champions. And it is a Chicago professional sports team that has just won a title. So she writes, gentlemen, in keeping with Chicago sports content, I wanted to drop a note about the Chicago Hounds, who won the Major League Rugby Championship this past Sunday. after going undefeated in the regular season and the playoffs. Take that, Dolphins. Take that. There you go, Larry Zonka. And let's see, Mercury Morris is dead now, right? I think. If he's not, I just killed him. Bob Greasy, all you guys, there you go. Undefeated, regular season and the playoffs. They play in Bridgeview at SeatGeek. It can be a bit of a hike for some. It's a great time. We enjoyed being first-time season ticket holders this year. I'm hoping you can give these guys a shout-out, especially since I think a lot of people don't know that we have a professional rugby team. I guess Chicago has the champion professional rugby team. And looking at these guys, you can see why.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Those are some thickly built men who I would not want to run into in a dark alley somewhere. But congrats, man. They're wearing big medals around their necks that they earned for their rugby, Major League Rugby championship.
Here's a question for you. Have you heard of the man who goes by Chicago Solely, Dan?
No.
Okay. So he is, I would consider him a decent creator friend out there. And what his bit is that he runs a mile every day until a Chicago sports team wins a championship. That's how his whole thing started. And he's in I believe he's in the 700s right now.
Wait, he runs a mile, or he runs a mile each day for, does the number of miles keep increasing?
No. It's just a mile every single day until a Chicago sports team wins a championship. And he knew about the rugby thing, but he's very particular about it in the fact that the team has to be in Chicago. And since SeatGeek is in Bridgeview, he has not counted it. So a lot of people are asking him, well, what if when the Bears leave Chicago,
right?
How does Arlington Heights?
Sure.
And he's sticking to it. He's hoping the Bears win the Super Bowl before they eventually move to whether it's Indiana or Arlington Heights. So but I was impressed that he knew about this before most of the public did. So shout out to Chicago.
It's his job. I think he should know that. I think it's really important that he does. But thanks to Erica for letting us know, and congratulations to the Chicago Hounds. Always good to have a champion of any kind. This is a note from Dan, and he says, I'm listening to Forward Progress, and I heard you mention that Toy Story is and has been really a movie and movies for parents. I haven't watched it all the way through recently, so I can't really speak to that. But what I can speak to is the show Bluey. Bluey is an Australian show about a family of dogs and their community. My kids are 4 and 6. So for the last few years, and we're on the downslope of it now, it has been on in our house for hours and hours. It is a show for parents disguised as a kids show. The episodes are only 7 minutes long. Many have subtle, layered messages that you only catch if you're paying attention. The music is phenomenal, with each episode having its own unique score and feel. There are countless episodes that could be considered the best in the series, and somehow they keep topping themselves. Several episodes have gotten me choked up. A few have left my wife in tears, not in that manipulative Pixar way, but in a genuinely artistic way that captures what it's like to be a parent, the joy, the challenges, sometimes both at the same time. So I know your kids, Maddie's and mine, are past the age where you naturally watch it, and it's not exactly something I tell someone to sit down and binge outside of sports, but it's reassuring to know that some children's entertainment is still exceptionally well done. If you're curious, it's available on Disney+. Check out the episodes Sleepy Time, Facey Talk, and Cricket. The short episodes are all worth a watch, all being 1 to 2 minutes long. That has completely missed me.
Yeah, I never heard of this show. Yeah,
nothing. That missed us. So I guess I'm sorry it did. We had our the shows they liked. He loved Crashbox, which is also an awesome kids show. I think it was on Showtime. That and Handy Manny, and she just wanted to watch cooking shows when she was little. That was just sort of her happy thing. Giada De Laurentiis just made her happy. So it was those were a lot of what we went through with my kids. Obviously after they graduated from Elmo and everything else. God, poor Elmo. Did you see the video that he did?
I've heard people talking about Elmo of recently, but I didn't know why.
He said, check it out on either his TikTok or Instagram. He's like, don't make this a thing. He's like talking about the U.S. soccer and everything, and he's like, I want them to win, but I am rooting for the United States. But he clearly like, don't make this a thing. It was very funny. Our buddy Jordan in St. Charles says, gentlemen, during yet another lobotomizing session of void gazing disguised as Tuesday's commute home, I found myself riveted by a particular exchange between Bernstein and Canicola, this time concerning the noble moose. You both hedged aplenty with the I don't know hunting caveats and made mostly harmless speculations, but Matt specifically posited a mouthful of innocent ignorance so alarming he could have resurrected Theodore Roosevelt with a single additional diss. Matt said, I don't see going after a moose as a great challenge, followed by a moose doesn't seem like a nimble creature. Oh, you sweet, sweet children of the suburbs. Yes, the moose is the gangly teenager of the ungulates. Yes, moose are in large part wary of human contact. Yes, the moose can be a walking Benny Hill montage when trying to negotiate through tight underbrush with twin satellite dishes growing out of its skull. However, for all its awkward reclusivity and generally unathletic appearance, a motivated moose can quickly transform into your worst fucking nightmare. Let's start with some perspective. Your average adult moose is around 6 feet tall and exceeds 1,000 pounds. It can sustain an easy gallop approaching 30 miles an hour and sprints through chest-deep snowbanks faster than you two after some expired meats and stale donuts. When faced with a full-sized privacy fence, most moose can simply push right through it when they can't be bothered to clear it more cleanly than Andre over the top rope. And Zeus help any hapless city Billy who dares attempt what I call Darwin's selfie by venturing too close to a rutting male or a cow keeping watch over her calves. A provoked moose will charge at, chase down, and in rare cases, kill people violently, kill their pets, kill their livestock with extreme prejudice. Hell, they're exponentially more lethal than bears and mountain lions when you account for how many poor saps end up liquefying themselves against their dashboard after hitting one of these behemoths with their car. All of this to say, boys, should you continue to underestimate Bullwinkle, be sure to maintain respectful distance and keep a sturdy book on your head. Shove an extra large goalie cup down your trousers. Yeah, Jordan, I'm enough of an outdoorsman to have encountered moose multiple times. I've been to Alaska. I've seen moose in the parking lot of the hotel. I have had to, my taxi to the airport had to stop 3 times from moose in the road. I'm very, very, very aware. I also know from many fairly rustic Canadian fishing trips that when in the wild and when you see that cow has calves, steer very, very, very clear. I know that, but that isn't really the point. But again, this is, I think the rules apply here as they used to, and that would be just take it. Let's do a note here from Cindy in Tacoma, Washington next. And Cindy says, over the course of the road trip Zed and I took recently, that's so cool. I don't know if anybody remembers. It was Zed, I think from Chapel Hill, who was a big part of Who Ya Crappin' for years. And she says, we've been following the exploits of how the San Francisco Giants pitchers either defaced their caps with misquoted Bible verses or denounced the cap by saying without saying, we hate the LGBTQ community. And it brings us to our experience at PNC Park on June 11th. It was Pride Night. It was a great time to let loose, especially for me. It's why I still enjoy this game. And she says, while I'm not the best looking example of it, I am an out trans woman. Actually going out as myself in this current hellscape, even in Seattle, is still a bit dangerous. So it was a joy to actually dress up a bit when we went to see the Pirates take on the Dodgers. It was Dollar Dog Night. which has to be the unintentionally perfect promotion simpatico to the likes that'll be tough to top. Over the course of the night, both Pirates and Dodgers brass and players had videos playing saying that we mattered. And it brings us to after the game. We were heading back to our hotel. And on the way out of the park, we had a couple of street preachers come up to us and ask us, have you thought about turning your life over to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? And Zed, despite being filled with icy light mango, quickly outwitted the opportunistic ones by going on a classic screed about how the real Savior was, in fact, Brian Cohen and how Jesus was a hypocrite. And that shut him up pretty quick. I want to make note that these chodes weren't out doing this before the game. They weren't out doing this anytime during the game. They only showed up when the fans were tired and tipsy or in a bit of agony, as I was, because I threw my back out the day prior. My meds had worn off. And we encountered another one who's more vitriolic with a megaphone saying, if you don't repent and turn away from the gay, you're going to hell. This guy was also not doing this outside of the park when people were arriving. And this leads to my main takeaway from what the pitchers did and my unfortunate experience with the street preachers. Did you see Jaden Ivey by any chance? Because that's now what Jaden Ivey is doing. So maybe he's out there, the former Bull, as my editorialization. So she says, they're all homophobes and transphobes who wanted to wait for the perfect time to maximize their hatred for those who they view as lesser and cause as much of a headache for them as possible. They had to have known this would get the biggest response. Then they play the religious persecution card to try to deflect, even though they did this out of malice and not out of anything near the realm of spreading the word and love of God. If they truly believed what they believed, they would have done this sooner and not cried foul when the pressure really got to them. Instead, they're just a few more you can add to the pile of those who only want to express their religious beliefs when it benefits them the most. It's also why Pride Night still matters to me. Knowing that we can all be ourselves and still enjoy the game is a great feeling, especially nowadays. And she finishes with this. If it wasn't for nights like this that teams put on, I don't know if I'd still be around to continue my 30 stadium goal.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. That's from Cindy in Tacoma, Washington. As always, Cindy, thank you for listening and for sending that in. I got some Bulls thoughts. All right. Our guy Ian in Boston says, I'm enjoying the NBA draft coverage here on DBU and on OWC. Observing the first major moves of a new regime is always the most exciting for me. I hold out hope there's some intrinsic advantage that Bryson Graham will have in every move he makes. Maybe he knows something no one else does, and I'm being let in on the plan. Back when the Cubs were getting good, the Addison Russell trade and the drafting of Schwarber felt that way. Most of all, I'm excited to see some tall guys coming through the door. I could never understand the last group's seeming glee in playing 4 guard lineups or tossing Derek Jones Jr. out there as a small ball 5. Even in the Harvard 6 foot and under intramural basketball league, a 5'8" small ball 5 like me got worked consistently. Why did AK seem to believe that playing at a constant size disadvantage was some badge of honor? It's like Robert Falcon Scott dying in his tent on the way back from the South Pole because it was more romantic to man-haul his sledges than use dogs like Amundsen did. But I digress. Keep at it. Thank you, Ian. And that's the very same Amundsen of Amundsen High School here at Foster and Damon.
Yeah. Drive by it a lot, actually.
Yeah. That's where Winnemac Park is, the lovely Winnemac Park. And not to be confused with the former Bull, as you're talking Bulls there, Lou Amundsen was a Bull for a brief time, wasn't he? I think.
Sounds familiar.
I'm pretty sure I think he was a Knick. And then he was on a bunch of teams. Bad, I think, Lou Amundsen. But yes. I like this question, and I don't know if I have an answer. It was sent in by Sean. Says, Dan, Matt, I was flipping through the channels and there was an ad for Skinny Pop popcorn. And Jennifer Aniston was checking into a hotel. And instead of a random actor saying, hey, you're Jennifer Aniston, the hotel clerk explained she was a huge fan And of course, Jennifer Aniston says, "Well, thank you." And the clerk goes on and on about all the great things about Skinny Pop, and then asks, checking in, and asks for a name. And Jennifer Aniston says, "Jennifer." And she says, "Jennifer what?" And she says, "Aniston." So would this be considered a run-of-the-mill Arakpo, or is this some subsection of a self-Arakpo? I thought about it, and I don't think this is one. I think once you reach a certain level of obvious stardom where you're making fun of how famous you are, that's the whole joke of the bit. The bit is nobody would realize she doesn't know who it is. So no, I don't think this is a stealth Arakpo of any kind. I don't think the point was to find some clever, creative way, like as Micah Ruzioni walks out of the bar, there happens to be an Ruzioni jersey hanging over there, or little ways of having somebody kind of acknowledge or help you out. I don't think that's what this is. I think this is an inversion of the idea of Arakpoing by making fun of the fact that this woman who working at the hotel wouldn't know who she is, and is instead saying she's a huge fan of Skinny Pop. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it does. Okay, now we're getting into some of the fun stuff here. I want to. We saved 2 different voice messages.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first one I want to play, I want to do the one that was listening when we were talking about the Hallmark movie about the Bears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can play that.
Okay, and this is what's this guy's name again? This is Logan.
Man. Let me bring up my email.
I think his name is Logan, who has this one, because I forwarded this to you, and I just found this absolutely hysterical. Yes, yeah, this is Logan.
Yeah, Logan. Yeah,
all right,
Logan Severson.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm putting this on here just because of. I'll explain afterwards, but we were talking about how we would reimagine this Bears themed Hallmark movie, and he offered us this.
Hey guys, I was listening to Forward Progress on the way home from work today, and I heard you guys talking about the Hallmark movie featuring the Bears or having the Bears in it, and I just wanted to give you another alternate ending to this film where, okay, so the zombies from Hammond, they come over here and they're looking for Kevin, and they can't find him, but they know he's always up at 4 a.m. at the George Hallis statue. So they head there and they corner him, and he climbs up the statue, and he's got Bible in hand, and he's yelling scripture and whatever, and then he's praying for something, a savior, and then guess who shows up? Tyson Bagent's dad, and he just starts arm wrestling these zombies, and it's right arm, left arm, take your pick, and he's just destroying them all, and he just gets them all. They build the stadium in Hammond, and they dance on the grave of all these zombies. And then the Soldier Field turns into the arm wrestling capital of the world. And then they build a dome, and happy ever after. Happy birthday, Dan.
That's the best part to me.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Dan.
So I wanted that held up as an example. That is exactly what the voice message feature on the app should be used for. That is exactly right. That is something you're in the middle of listening. Like, wait, I'm hearing you. I have an idea. Take this. I'm gonna throw this down right now. That is being in the moment, in the bit. That's like in hockey, a defenseman jumping into the play. A defenseman who knows he's got to watch his own blue line, who knows he's creeping forward a little bit, but then he sees it cycling around in the corner, and he's uncovered, and he can just skate up and smack his stick on the ice and crank one. That's what that was. It missed the net, but it doesn't matter. And I love the idea of Travis Bagent vanquishing opponents by just slamming their arms down. That somehow the zombies can be done in. Can be killed by losing at arm wrestling. That their pride is so wounded they evaporate. Oh! No, that's it. I cannot continue to exist as a zombie that loses at arm wrestling, has no value and no worth, and must go away. So I was thinking about that driving in. That here he is. Oh, it comes out of nowhere. Here you go. Take that. Take that. I like it. Well done.
I still just love the happy birthday, Dan. It just the perfect way to end it. Just something like that, and then end it with that. It's just perfect.
That's it. Logan out. Happy birthday, Dan. All right. Thanks, Logan. I appreciate that one. It's something that is coming up next week that you need to do. July 5th. You've already done your All-Star, July 3rd, July 4th. You've done all that. You're saying, like, look, let's make a whole weekend let's make a big family fun weekend out of the July 4th weekend. Well, you know what you can do is you can go watch a little bit of Chicago Stars professional soccer, because they're back in Evanston against Utah Royals FC on July 5th. And they're celebrating a summer of soccer on the north side, and you don't want to miss it. They play at Martin Stadium in Evanston, and tickets start at just $19. The whole thing is really cool. It's not just the game, that you get a kids zone and yard games and a mini pitch and the family-friendly atmosphere. Any young kid or soccer player that wants to see their role models play up close can do that. So Mallory Swanson, Alyssa Nair, these are huge names in pro soccer. Easy to get to via car, bike, CTA, or Metro, right on the shores of Lake Michigan. So come for a match. Come for the pre-match entertainment. Cheer on U.S. Olympians like Mallory Swanson and Alyssa Nair playing right on the lakefront in Evanston. Summer soccer doesn't get better than this. Get your tickets now at chicagostars.com/tickets.
Have you seen the newest Pepsi commercial, Dan?
I don't know.
Well, it has Mallory and Dansby Swanson in it. And I bring it up because Dansby's wearing a shirt that's made by Obvious Shirts here in Chicago.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's I believe it says Mallory Swanson is good at soccer or something like that. And so, I've known Joe, it's 2026. I've known Joe for like 10 or 11 years, and to see his shirt, like local small business, make it to like corporate America commercials, it's pretty cool. So
yeah, that's a big deal when you actually, because it's not like he just walks out there and says, I'm wearing this shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be approved by a lot of people.
Oh,
a lot of powerful people have to sign off on wardrobe and everything else. That isn't just a random thing where it's like some promo that the guy's cutting for local radio.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So good for him. That's really kind of neat. Now, I want to start this next group of in our last group of feedback emails here that are on the same topic with yet another voice message that came in, because there were a couple of these, and I thought this was this is Brendan who sent this.
Hey Dan, I have to thank you for putting Tino Antonacci back in my head. I'm not even thinking of Sam Antonacci. I just keep thinking of Tino Antonacci. And it took me back to my high school days, listening to the Score in the morning and, hearing Connie Franson and my guy and putting Jardinier on my shoes. Oh, boy. Well, thank you.
Connie Francis, not Connie Franson. But good. The question I asked was, am I the only one who, whenever Sam Antonacci is up, I channel the old Mike North, Tino Antonacci? But apparently that is that I'm not alone. So yeah, Jake said, I'm a younger fan of the show, and anytime I go to my dad's place and the Sox game is on, he's always singing Tino Antonacci anytime Sam is up to bat. So thank you for confirming that my dad is not just acting like a crazy person. You're welcome. Yes, we're all in this together. I understand. Canuck Boy said, "You really did this to me, Bernstein." One offhand mention of Mike North, how he used to scream "Tino Antonacci" back in 1995, and now I can't watch Sam Antonacci hit without my brain screaming that at the screen. So, naturally, instead of doing literally anything productive with my retirement here in Japan, I spent 20 minutes deep diving into the Twitter account of the actual Tino Antonacci. Real guy, still alive, owned Basta Pasta, 8 total tweets since joining in April of 22. It tells you about how he operates. He's not a poster. He's a lurker. He occasionally will surface to like things. And the things he likes are a perfect cross-section of a Chicago guy of a certain age. Actual Mike North content, pro-MAGA tweets, and what I can only describe as a steady diet of attractive Italian women on his timeline. The bio says, taking one day at a time, which honestly might be the most self-aware thing in the whole account. So thanks for that. I now have a face, a restaurant, and politically charged Twitter likes permanently associated with every Sam Antonacci at bat for the rest of my life. I hope you're happy. Oh, Canuck Boy. Oh, I'm happy. You better believe I am to know that I've done that to you specifically. There is a note here from Minaj sent this, and it's a link. So the Atlantic magazine put together a database, a searchable database of what on the internet is being used to train generative AI. And there's Boers and Bernstein stuff on there that it absolutely freaked me out. He said, you go to this link and search 670 The Score. So I did. And there's a couple of videos here, one of which has got me in it. And then there's an old video of Terry and me at the Buffalo Wild Wings in Chicago Ridge on the Who Needs to Bud Light Tavern tour. So I just think it's great. It had me doing a whole bit in my head about generative AI that is only trained listening to Terry, and how this would be a better world if it were true, and if like Pete Hegseth is programming all of the missile operations with this particular generative AI, but it's only Terry Boers. So I would just say have fun with that, because I almost kept myself up late thinking about how that would go down if that were the case. But I much appreciate that. This is from Jose, who said, I was listening to the podcast and you mentioned the Tino Antonacci song, and you're absolutely not alone. I have other references that I'm constantly dropping on my kids just to amuse myself. I'm always saying, watch out, it's slippery over there. And of course, there's garage door, where you been? Because of greeting callers with their dumbass monikers. And it doesn't touch the plethora of Boersisms that play in my head. I was at an impressionable age when listening to the early Score, which I use this to annoy others and amuse myself because I am not well. Well, that is much appreciated. I want to close with this because I can't take all the credit for it. I'm not going to say that Spencer is absolutely right in this analysis, but he's not entirely wrong either, based on what I know. And all he says is, okay, Bernstein, take a bow. I don't know who in the Pulitzer Committee needs to be notified, but your decades-long crusade of speaking truth to stupid has finally reached an inflection point. Against the forces of institutionalized power and prevailing fan stupidity, this career-spanning campaign has been well documented. On Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026, acronym guy was quietly removed from power. Though no public statement was issued and acknowledgement was confirmed, as you said, the Bulls admitted the forced retirement of the SLAP acronym. I imagine you think I'm being over the top. I am, but to a point. I firmly believe that your pedantic pantsing of Tim Beckman and Wint is the fountainhead of what just surfaced on draft night. While you're far from the only voice in Chicago sports media, many of them now belong to people from Chicago that have listened to you and throughout their careers. I don't think it's a stretch to say that many of the iconic moments associated with you and the totality of B&B have become entrenched in the ethos of the larger Chicago sports dialogue. But it's not just the one hilarious moment where that humorless oaf was exposed as an idiot. It's the repetition of the following sequence. Chicago sports team fires coach or executive due to sustained failure. Fans and you, Dan, rejoice. Chicago sports team replaces fired person with someone that, when asked how they'll bring wins, uses an acronym. Then you question the intelligence of that person, citing the use of an acronym, and then the person is Matt Eberflus. So amidst the justifiable optimism regarding Bryson Graham, I can envision the cringe rippling through gathered media and across apps and platforms when he said slap. The reverberations obviously created enough seismic activity to be picked up by the Bulls. The stink of acronym guy was foul enough to inspire an about face. I'm suspecting you might try to be humble. I want to make one other observation. Bryson Graham's not stupid, but he hasn't been connected to the Chicago sports landscape until recently. It's a quasi-experiment, a foreign agent introduced into an existing ecosystem, given the first opportunity to speak to a new fan base, a demographic traditionally stupid, and Chicago's no exception. He used an acronym, and he had no idea what it meant in that room. So there's a combination of variables in which you fit. A new executive, new town, feeding the media drywall because they represent a stupid fan base is universal. But your life work of sniffing out idiots and the means by which this is done is disproportionately weighted here. So the term acronym guy is not only understood locally, it's a pejorative. It led to an observable decision and action within an internationally recognized professional sports organization. He said the only possible explanation that these normal events could lead to an abnormal outcome is the presence of your buffoonery. Said Bryson Graham sits down in his new office, unlocks his computer, gets back to work on his coaching candidate list when someone from Bulls PR sheepishly walks into his office and has to explain the taboo he committed because some asshat on the radio had successfully drawn a connecting line between the use of an acronym and the respective intelligences of Tim Beckman and Matt Eberflus that accurately predicted an unfavorable outcome. So we can only hope that without knowing why, Bryson Graham picked up a nearby book from his desk and rests it gently on his head. I don't know about all that. Maybe a little bit of that. But Spencer, thank you. I appreciate it.
Says a lot that he decided, or that he was told to,
it was decided to use the passive voice. They may have said, "Hey, let's not use that slap acronym anymore." But people are already running with it. I saw the Tribune was using it again today. You drop something like that, and in this town, based on Wint and based on hits, it's going to get a lot of play. But so far, I will say the guys that he picked did happen to fit the mnemonic that he uses to explain what he likes in players. He didn't say that's the founding or the foundational principle of our organization or how I do what I do. It's just a way of remembering the kind of players that they like. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's fine. You got to call Russ Armstrong for Windows. Why? Because he's going to make your life easier. He's going to make everything better, and he's going to help you sort through all of this advertising that you hear constantly about people trying to sell you Windows. Make it easy on yourself. Call Russ. He'll match any price. You don't have to deal with these teaser ads and deal with companies that say they're local that aren't really local, or they're a big window group that is just going to pawn you off through a marketing company to another group here. You don't want that. You want to deal directly with the owner of everything. And that's Russ, and that's Chicago Window Guys. He comes out to your house to give you the estimate. His factory is here in Chicago. He makes the windows. His crew will do the installation. And again, it's a price match guarantee. The best product, the best price guaranteed. I love my windows. from Russ. You will love yours. 847-302-9171. And check out his 5-star reviews at ChicagoWindowGuys.com. You want a top 10 list?
Let's hear it.
All right. That is a rhetorical question, because whether you want one or not, you're getting one.
Well, it's Friday, so
It is Friday.
I'm ready for this one.
Good, because we have put together the draft was Tuesday and Wednesday. The first round was on Tuesday. AJ DeBonsa was the first overall pick in the draft, so we hope he doesn't join this list of the top 10 worst number 1 overall NBA draft picks. The worst 1-1s. And I think I'm going to be a little unfair on the first one here. And it's in large part due to what he represents, because he was actually okay as a player. But at number 10, I'm going to put Kenyon Martin. And he ended up having a career, Nets, Nuggets. Then he went to China and played for the Xinjiang Flying Tigers, or Xinjiang Flying Tigers. Then the Clippers and the Knicks and the Bucks. But for 1 of 1, you thought it should have been way better than that. But the reason why he has to be here is because he was the 1 of 1 in the worst draft. In an absolutely awful first round. I've mentioned it before, but this was the 2000 NBA draft. Kenyon Martin, Stromile Swift, Darius Miles, Marcus Fizer, Mike Miller, DeMar Johnson, Chris Mim, Jamal Crawford. Look at that. Jamal Crawford's there at 8. Joel Prisbilla, Keon Dooling, Jerome Moiso, Etan Thomas, Courtney Alexander, Mateen Cleaves, Jason Collier, Hito Turkoglu, Desmond Mason, and then the guy that should have gone to the top 5, Quentin Richardson. Yikes. So not only did the Bulls take Marcus Fizer at 4, they also had the 24th pick in this draft that they used on Dalibor Bogaric. Come on, man. The guy I liked in this draft was Chris Mim, who could not play basketball. The guy Terry liked in this draft was Vanderbilt power forward Dan Lange. I don't know where. I don't know if they even allowed him to play at all in the league. I took one look at him and they were like, no, get out of here. And then, God, deep in the second round, at least Michael Redd out of Ohio State was able to put the ball in the basket a few times. Jesus, is bad.
First second round pick, he turned out to have a good carear.
He did. As a scorer. Yeah. There was that one duel that he had with Ben Gordon where nobody else was scoring. It was like an old, Jordan Barkley game, or an old kind of heyday regular season Tuesday night Jordan Dominique Wilkins game. I want to say it was on a Sunday that I remember. I watched some on TV and then listened to the radio. It was an afternoon game, and it was just Ben Gordon and Michael Redd exchanging buckets. But number 10 on the list, Kenyon Martin. Number 9 worst 1-1 pick is Andrea Bargnani.
I would agree that he belongs on this list. Yeah.
Andrea Bargnani was the first overall pick in 2006 and was sort of this like new look thing. Look at this. He can do everything. He's a big guy and he can shoot it. He's 7 feet tall, but boy, can he stroke it. And I get the idea. It certainly made sense. He just wasn't good enough. He just
you think he came before his time?
It's arguable. It's arguable. It just, he didn't impact basketball. He just didn't have a lot of effect on any winning. You'd see him somewhere and you'd be like, okay, that's pretty good. He can make shots. But as a 1 of 1, the impact felt was very low. And that's why he's number 9. Number 8, Michael Olowokandi.
Yes.
the number 1 overall pick in 1998, 7 feet tall, 270 pounds. The Clippers grabbed him and didn't really know what to do with him because as he was an incredible athlete, just a terrible basketball player, like a great, great athlete. He was a track star. He was a soccer player. He only started playing basketball when he was 18. He played cricket. He played rugby union, which is, it's all great. He just was never good at basketball, and had a middling career, lasted for a while with the Clippers and T-Wolves and Celtics, and just kind of rode along the bench for a while. And that was it. That's why Michael Olowokandi is the 8th worst pick ever. Number 7, Purvis Ellison, the number 1 pick in 1989. Purvis Ellison, as a freshman, was the best player on the Louisville team that beat the Johnny Dawkins, Mark Allery Duke Blue Devils to win the national championship. You remember it was never nervous Purvis, because no matter the situation, Purvis was never nervous. And then he was hurt all the time. And his teammate, Danny Ainge, called him out of service Purvis. And that's what he became, because he just couldn't stay healthy for long enough. He had one decent year. In 91, 92, he averaged 20 points a game. And that was it. All downhill from there. Had one decent year as the number 1 overall pick, and away he went. Number 6, Kwame Brown.
Oh, man.
See, that is the response I want. I want the immediate response to be ugh. And yes, that is the proper adjective.
Is Kwame Brown like one of the sole reasons Stephen A. Smith took off in his career? Like, when I think of Stephen A. Smith, I just think of his rants about Kwame Brown and how bad he was.
You would know better than I, but that's an easy target. That's fish in a barrel. Listed at 6'11", 290, and he was taken first overall by the Michael Jordan run Washington Wizards. And if you remember that there were all kinds of problems, but he was feuding with Gilbert Arenas. He feuded with coaches. And at one point, I believe that an angry owner, Michael Jordan, came down after practice to reduce him to tears and refer to him by a gay slur. So that happened. And Kwame Brown was Wizards, Lakers, Grizzlies, Pistons, Bobcats, Warriors, Sixers, and then out of basketball. He averaged double figures in points one year in 03-04, where he averaged 10.9 points a game for Washington. Kwame Brown, number 6. Number 5 is a lesson in never get too excited about a college national champion or even a historic college team. Scout the player, don't scout the team. Because number 5 is Kent Benson. Kent Benson was number 1 overall in 1977. It was coming off of his 2-time All-American performances at Indiana, helping the Hoosiers win their 1976 NCAA title. That's the year they were 32-0. He was Final Four most outstanding player. So he had the accolades. He had the recognition. He just didn't really have the basketball ability. And he finished his career averaging 9 points and 5.5 rebounds. But what was memorable for him is not only was he traded twice in his career for a Hall of Fame player, because in 1980, he was traded to the Pistons for Bob Lanier. In 86, he was traded along with Kelly Tripucka to the Jazz for Adrian Dantley. Kent Benson, in his very first game as a pro, this is what I remember. This is what I think of because of the famous highlight. And it's one of those NBA highlights that people of a certain age have seen over and over and over again. If you haven't seen it, it is worth finding on YouTube. I believe it's there. It was only 2 minutes into his NBA debut. The Bucks were playing the Lakers, and Kent Benson was running down the floor and threw a hard elbow right into the solar plexus of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Announce his presence with authority. Here you go, Kareem, take that. Well, Kareem got the wind knocked out of him. He stayed on his feet, but he doubled over. It took him a while for him to get his breath and get his bearings back. And when he did, he calmly and with clear aforethought, but definitely well beyond the heat of the moment, walked right over to an unsuspecting Benson and knocked him out. Punched
2 minutes into his career.
2 minutes into his career, he elbows Kareem. Kareem saunters over in response and knocks him out with a right. Gave him a concussion, and Jabbar broke his hand and missed 2 months. Benson only missed the game, even with a concussion. He was back in action 4 days later, played 24 minutes against the Bulls. But that's how I remember Kent Benson, number 5 on the list of worst number 1 overall NBA draft picks. Number 4, and this is more sad than anything else. Number 4 is Markelle Fultz.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. There's my ugh. I love it. Markelle Fultz, first overall in 2017. And this became sort of an inscrutable story about a difficult to diagnose injury from someone who was believed to be a difference maker as a creative guard who had all these cool little floating shots and abilities to operate in the mid-range and in the paint. And it was a shoulder injury that started described as a scapular muscle imbalance. And then he all of a sudden couldn't shoot. He absolutely lost his ability to shoot, and everybody talked about, is he in The Thing? Is this Steve Sachs, Chuck Knobloch? Is this some sort of case of the mental yips? Is this Mackie Sasser unable to throw the ball back to the pitcher? And he said it was an injury. It didn't allow me to shoot the ball. So then they worked on his shooting mechanics. They hired a trainer outside the Sixers organization, and they had him working, and his shots started to look all janky. Mm-hmm. And even though he kept getting chance after chance after chance, he was then diagnosed with thoracic outlet syndrome, the neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome that affects nerves between the neck and the shoulder. So he was traded to the Magic, and the Magic didn't think he returned to play, saying the shoulder injury was very serious. And then he tore his ACL. And it kind of ended everything and teams' desire to continue experimenting. So that was it for the star-crossed career of one Markelle Fultz, number 4 on our list. Number 3 is Greg Oden.
Oh, that one's sad too.
Yeah. Well, he had some off-court issues that make it a little less sad.
Well, this is news to me, but when I think about Greg Oden, it's more about his knees just not being able to stand up.
It was his knees. It was bad scouting is what it was. But Greg Oden, remember, he was charged with battery for punching his ex-girlfriend in the face, to which he pleaded guilty. So that was something that happened. But Greg Oden he had surgery on his wrist when he was in high school, and he didn't have much of an injury history in college because he won like every single college award, freshman of the year and conference tournament, most outstanding player. That was after being national high school of the year or high school player of the year. Never lost a home game throughout high school and college. Associated Press All-American. But look at the other names on that list. AP All-Americans that year Aaron Aflalo, Alondo Tucker, AC Law, who now is the Bulls vice president of player personnel, and Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Kevin Durant went second in that draft.
Yep.
The Sonics, before they were the Thunder.
Famously, yes, he was the Sonics draft pick. But Greg Oden had knee injuries that turned into microfracture surgery and then a chipped kneecap, and he was taken off the court at one point on 2 stretchers that had to be connected, and he had the fractured left patella. So all kinds of kneecap injuries and elsewhere, various setbacks, arthroscopic surgeries, and out.
Yeah, he's one of those, like, I definitely view it more as a health thing. I did not know about the girlfriend thing, but when I think of Greg Oden, it's like just bad knees.
Yep. And happens with big dudes. Number 2 worst number 1 overall NBA draft pick of all time is Anthony Bennett.
Oh, yeah.
6'8" Anthony Bennett out of UNLV was the first overall pick in 2013. And all I have to do is read his career history to answer the question, how did his career end up? Well, it went like this. Cleveland Cavaliers, Minnesota Timberwolves, Toronto Raptors 905, Brooklyn Nets, Long Island Nets, Fenerbahce, Northern Arizona Suns, Maine Red Claws, Agua Caliente Clippers, Hapoel Jerusalem, Kaohsiung Steelers, Hinshu JKO Lioneers, Kaohsiung 17 Live Steelers, and finishing up in 2025 with the Formosa Dreamers of the Taiwanese Basketball League. That's all it was for former Canadian star Anthony Bennett.
That's longer than I expected, to be honest with you.
Hey, man, you can play in the league, but the worst number 1 overall NBA draft pick, sadly enough, a nice man, a man who I got the chance to interview one time at his alma mater when I was doing sideline reporting for a TV broadcast. And that is the pride of Loyola University, Chicago, LaRue Martin. LaRue Martin was the number 1 overall pick in the 1972 NBA draft. And the pride of De La Salle High School here in Chicago. He was a classmate of Bryant Gumbel, so he went to De La Salle on the south side, the same place with which my son's hockey club was affiliated for 3 years. So we were part of Meteors hockey before it became Eagles hockey in Chicago South. So I feel some ties to De La Salle in that regard. But boy, LaRue Martin, man, it isn't just the fact that his first year he averaged 4.4 points, the next year 4.9, and then he peaked in 74-75, averaging 7 points. And then in 75-76, 4 points, and then his career was over. But he made peace with it. He became very successful in other aspects of his life. And I believe he had worked for Nike, and he became the community services manager of UPS Corporation. He's on the National Basketball Retired Players Association Board of Directors and has been very active in the community, has lived a very successful life outside of basketball, LaRue Martin. And you say, well, why is it that big a deal? Because sometimes you look at a draft and you think, what could have been? What could have been in this draft? Well, here's what happened. The number 1 pick, LaRue Martin. The number 2 pick went to the Buffalo Braves. That was Bob McAdoo. The number 10 pick was Paul Westphal. The number 12 pick was Julius Erving. So there were some guys that you probably could have had in this draft, including some Hall of Famers here that might have done a little better than our guy. Our number 1, congratulations to LaRue Martin. Don't be mad at me, please.
There's a ESPN 30 for 30, and he wasn't the number one pick, but he's one of the biggest busts in NBA history, I believe. Darko Milicic.
Number 2.
Pistons. Yeah,
that was number 2 in the Carmelo draft, right?
Yeah, LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwayne Wade. Kirk Heinrich went to the Bulls at number 7, I believe, in that draft. But Darko, he went number 2.
I call it the Carmelo draft because it was. Didn't Carmelo go 3?
Yes,
because I think that's why I always think of it that was the decision they made. It wasn't LeBron or Darko; it was Carmelo or Darko, or they took Darko.
Yeah, and I think Chris Bosh was in that draft too. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, it's like historically one of the best drafts, and I don't know how old this documentary from ESPN is, but they've been posting clips on their 30 for 30 Twitter account of this documentary, and it's intrigued me enough to want to go and watch it, so it's on my list, just because I remember that draft as a kid and watching all those careers play out, and his just completely, again, I think he's one of the worst draft picks ever. He wasn't number 1, but number 2.
That's bad.
To do number 2, that's pretty bad.
That opens up a whole other thing. You could do, I mean, any individual slot in the top 5, you absolutely could. That will do it for today's DBU here on 312 Sports. We have been brought to you in partnership by Chicago Window Guys. Give Russ Armstrong a call. He is always waiting for you to make sure that you have the best windows in your home. 847-302-9171. Check out his 5-star reviews at ChicagoWindowGuys.com and by the Chicago Stars, making this a soccer-filled summer in Evanston. Come to a match for family-friendly pro sports on the lakefront. Get tickets right now, especially for that July 5th game at chicagostars.com/tickets. Talking on a Monday.
Dan Bernstein Unfiltered on 312 Sports.